am I better off leasing or buying? Anyway, Sears has a great layaway plan. So. Now that I'm dating, I'm on this Jewish site called Plenty of Gefilte Fish. The only problem is they can't tell if you're hungry or horny. And I'm writing up my bio. And naturally I'm mentioning that I do comedy and that I won the funniest Jewish comic contest. And that was a real trip, but because I got first of all, I got a cash prize. And then they promised me a gig somewhere in Westchester. And they kept their promise, but they didn't tell me it was an Irish pub. And papers took out all of these announcements, every paper, now appearing, George Salt's funniest Jewish comic, now appearing at Barney McNabb's in Yonkers, all week of Christmas. And I come in and, it's got all the ornaments and the tree and everything. And the beer people even put up a big sign saying, let's put the Christ back in Christmas. So I made up my own sign saying, bring back the Ch in Hanukkah. And I was serious, because we've become pussies, the Jews. We go so soft. Happy Hanukkah. It's not Hanukkah, it's Hanukkah, right? And when, chumetz, right? And when you eat that nice bread, it's not challah, it's challah. And if somebody has nerve to the nth degree, it's chutzpah, right? And while we're at it, you know those people that dress so strangely with the long black coats and the high hat and the furry hat? The ones that some people say, just the sight of them turns their stomach. It's not acid reflux. It's just a case of prejudice. And anyway, I'm so glad to be at 76 House. This is, I believe, the 6th time that I've been here, and I love it. And it has such history, which Rob mentioned. George Washington wined and dined here, and actually we are in the 200 years ago. This was a prison. This was the prison room where they kept the British spy John Andre. He was in cahoots with Benedict Arnold, and he was tried, found guilty, and executed. And they have pictures of him all over the restaurant. And he was rather good looking. And one of the waitresses said he was quite a ladies' man. And I'm not surprised, I heard he was hung. And anyway, let's talk more about the present. And today was not a good day for me. I found out I was unfriended. Not on Facebook, I read it in the obituaries. And also, this week I woke up and my legs were swollen. So I put on those compression stockings because the doctor said for my health I have to put them on. And it got me thinking, this is another way that I'm different from the young guys. They think of safe sex, I think of safe socks. They want the swelling to go up, I want it to go down. This July I will be 84 years old. I'd rather have the time. And I'm not going to lie to you, at this age it comes with a lot of problems. And my biggest problem is I happen to like older women. Where can I find a 95-year-old cougar? They're so hard to come by. And I want one with their own teeth. None of this toothless cougar crap. But they seem to have vanished. I used to go to the senior residence and find an abundance of them. I'd walk into the day room. We called it the petting zoo. But they seem to have vanished. And just one more time, I want to hear somebody call me a toy boy. You know, it would be nice. Before this, as was mentioned, I was a clinical psychologist. And I'm retired, and people are still asking, what's the difference between a neurotic and a psychotic? And I quickly say, the neurotic builds castles in the air, and the psychotic lives in them. And I collect the rent. And I did primarily psychotherapy. And at the beginning, I noticed that there were some patients that came for therapy that had a lot more problems than the average, a lot more problems. So I charged them more. You know where I got the idea? From the airlines. Excess baggage. And, you know, people are always asking me, tell us an interesting case and so on. One case is, I was treating this young man, half Japanese, half Jewish, a Jupe. And it was a classic case of identity confusion. And he certainly was confused. Every December 7th, he would attack Pearl Schwartz. Did the rest of you hear about World War II? It was in all the papers. You know? Okay. Now the comics are all asking me questions, you know, personal questions when they find out, you know, that I was a shrink. And recently, one of them asked me, when is it considered kinky, and when is it considered a serious perversion? And it's a good question. And I told him, if you use a feather, that's kinky. When you use the whole chicken, bingo! And then I found out his father was, he was the night manager at Popeyes. And anyway, I never had to record any of it because I had an excellent memory. I never took notes. In fact, I have an excellent, I know it's hard to believe, but I can remember everything way back. I can remember my first day in high school. I went to the gym class, and the gym teacher said, boys, when you go up for the basketball, protect the family jewels. And I knew what he meant. He was talking about my privates, and he called them jewels. I was so proud. My family jewels. I bought these tight-fitting pants. I walked up and down the street. My family jewels. These are my family jewels. My family jewels. And what do they call it now? Junk. What the hell happened? How did it get so devalued? Jewels to junk? It's got to have something to do with supply and demand. At least if they called it something of a little value, call it a tchotchke. That means a little plaything. But it's got to be supply and demand. And I think it's all these guys, young guys, that send naked pictures of themselves on the internet. And the girls get 40 to 50 a day of dick pics. They're bored to shit. Seen that, seen that, seen that. And where does it go? Junk mail. I grew up in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, Williamsburg, and at that time it was exclusively Jewish. I didn't know anybody that wasn't. And as a result, I knew nothing about other religions. Even as a teenager, I thought Palm Sunday was what happened when you had no action on Saturday. Anybody else? And you'll never guess what I thought the resurrection was all about. And my friends and I, we were what you would call nice Jewish boys. And those of you that don't know what that entails, a nice Jewish boy is one part gentleman, one part faggot. And the reason I say that is because there was a whole sexual revolution going on, and we were pacifists. We didn't touch the girls. We didn't suggest anything. We didn't even talk dirty. We couldn't say get laid. We say get lucky. We talk in code. We see a good-looking girl, we say, I'd like to get lucky with her. Or let's go to the dance. Maybe we'll get lucky. You know, we're talking about getting laid as if it was like hitting the lottery, you know? And I guess it was, but nobody told us you had to be in it to win it. And would you believe it? My friends are still that way today. After all this time, they only speak in code, and not me. What's there to it? You know, it is what it is. This is 2018, you know, I could say get laid. Go with the flow, now is now. I've been this way since I was 75, 76. So, anyway, my family was kosher, they were Orthodox and kosher. And what that meant was, when we went on vacation, which was usually to the Catskills, it had to be, dietary laws had to be strictly observed. And the most important one is the time separation in between meat and dairy, very important. And one year we went to a place that was so observant that even the salad lady waited 6 hours in between shtupping the butcher and the milkman. That's what I call kosher. Her husband didn't think so, but that's what I call it. And my parents loved it, the Catskills. I was a teenager. I loved it, but for different reasons. They loved it because there's an enormous amount of food, you know, just, and they could rest and all of that. I loved it because every night there was a wonderful comic coming on, and just everyone that you're probably familiar with now. And in those days, the Borscht Belt humor was just wonderful. Just to give you some samples of the type of humor, Boris Tomaszewski, the wonderful Jewish actor, stage actor, he picks up a lady of the evening on 8th Avenue, and she looks the way he's dressed magnificently, and she figures, I'm gonna make a score. And at the end of the evening, he goes for his wallet and he gives her 2 tickets. And she looks at it, what's this? He says, I'm Boris Tomaszewski, the great actor. And she looks at it and she says, with this, I'm gonna buy bread. He says, you want bread? Go bang a baker. And Freddie Roman had a joke of an elderly couple and the wife is trying to rekindle the romance. And she's upstairs, she calls down to him in the living room, Stanley, why don't you walk up the stairs, come to the bedroom, and we'll make some hanky-panky. And he says, you want me to climb all the way up the stairs for hanky-panky? Yeah. He says, I could do one thing or the other. And Freddie Roman, no, that was Freddie Roman, sorry. Myron Cohen, the wonderful Myron Cohen, had a joke of a Texan and a Jewish man, and the Texan is boasting. He said, back on my ranch in Texas, he says, I get into my car at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I drive, and I drive, and I drive, and by 2:30 in the afternoon, I'm still on my property. And the Jewish man says, I once had a car like that. And this was it, I was hooked. I wanted to, I didn't want to be a doctor, I didn't want to be a lawyer, I didn't want to be a movie star, I didn't want to be a baseball player. I just wanted to be in the Catskills and doing shtick and wanted to do comedy. And so every day after high school, I go to my room, I practice jokes, I would do impressions. I even did Jewish parodies of the popular songs. Like, for example, there was a wonderful song of the day, a version of a gospel song, you probably know it, Down by the Riverside. And I put a Jewish spin on it, and it sounded like this. I asked her, what the hell is this? Down by the matzah brei. I'm sure I saw her fly. Went down the matzah brei. I said a little service, miss. What's with the matzah brei? What's with the matzah brei? She said, have patience, little man. I only have 2 hands. I do the best what I'm able. You know, to wait is no big sin. What's more, you just came in. Besides, I don't work your table. And I had about 6 or 7 of those parodies. I did impressions and jokes. And at 18 years old, in my senior year at Eastern District High School, I was hired professionally to perform in the Catskills. And I was in heaven. I was